Hi, Victoria. I said I was going to just go through your EE paragraph with you that you needed to do for this latest checkpoint, and also to just make sure you understood the annotated bibliography as well. So if Miss UN's already done this, great. If not, I'll send you these documents, but it talks about the fact you've got to fill in a reflection, planning and progress form as part of your EE, and there are basically 3 points where you have to check in and reflect. So the link to the actual form is here. It is mandatory, it's worth 18% of the final mark, so you have to put them in. And essentially those 3 meetings, the first one happens now, and then there's one at the end of term and one in November. So I think you should have had your meeting with Miss UN. And when you do your little paragraph write-up, it just needs to be maximum 150 words. And it's these considerations that you go through. So have you looked at the requirements for your specific EE? I think you said it was a World Studies one. So are you meeting the criteria? Have you got the 2 lenses that you're looking at for a World Studies EE? To make it clear, and you will have discussed this with Miss UN, but you've just got to outline to the examiner what it is you're looking at and which kind of subject areas it's covering. If there are any ethical implications, that tends to be more for science, to make sure you're not doing experiments that aren't legal or anything. And this is the key bit. Talk about some of your approaches and any problems that might arise. So if you're thinking about doing certain surveys, how are you going to get access to the people you need to speak to, if you need to interview people, if you're looking for specific data, where are you going to get hold of that data? So it's just to show that you are planning ahead and you're thinking about some of the potential issues that might happen. And also kind of a brief outline of where your ideas are at the moment and where you think you might be going. So if you've got a kind of a plan in place, so like one of my students knows what she's looking at and which country she's looking at, but we just needed to refine exactly who she was going to talk to, where she was going to get some primary data from to support her reading that she's already done. And just thinking about your next steps. So it probably is putting together a kind of a timeline of what you're going to complete. So you've got a couple of writing days coming up. What's the plan for those, to come up with a detailed plan, to maybe come up with some main section headings that you're going to investigate. Is there more key research that you need to do, and what is that research, and when is that going to happen, so that there's almost a kind of a time frame between now and November of what you're going to do at each stage. And you don't need to put that plan in here, but you were probably going to say in this reflection that your next step is going to be to make that detailed plan of action. And you're supposed to put that on your RPPF form and then send it to your supervisor to have a look at and maybe make some editing suggestions. So like I said, it should only be 120 to 150 words because you've got a word limit for the whole thing of 500. And this is about including your personal voice. So it's fine to say, I've struggled with this concept, or I was going to do this. And if you say something here that you think you're going to do, and then we find by June, actually you've changed your mind and that didn't work, that's totally fine. So it's not committing you to anything at this stage. It's just getting you to think about any of the things that you might want to look at, any of the challenges that you've already come across, maybe things that you need to consider in the future. Okay, so that's the first thing, and there's a couple of examples here of the sorts of things that could be written. So this is the one that you would be doing the first reflection stage. Okay, so that's that one. And then the other thing you've got to do is an annotated bibliography, and there is a link to how to do that and what it needs to include on here, which is really quite good because I didn't understand what an annotated bibliography was until I looked through it. But it's essentially just showing that you know how to reference a resource properly, so you can put the proper citation in, the proper bibliography reference, and then underneath it you're just kind of evaluating the usefulness of that source, and it gives you a bit of specific information that you need to include. But have a look through it because it does explain everything you need to do. And those two things, if they're not already with Miss UN, should be with Miss UN this week, because that's where you should be up to. And particularly important because you're going to have a writing day on Friday and a writing day on Monday. So you kind of need to get your head around where it is you want to be by that point. And I think if you need to, you can always chat to Miss UN again. Okay, I hope that helps. I'll put those links in the email that I send.